So moved.
Motion by Ben, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next item is approval of minutes, and we'll take them one by one. For the April 3, 2019, I know Jim had some changes on some of these minutes.
Yeah, so on the April 3rd, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the April 3rd minutes with the following changes.
Okay.
Item number 9 in budget deliberations, after, let's see, after where it says $26,567.00, and along with increases to revenue of $160,000. So the entire sentence would end up reading, that Mrs. Branfield stated that as a result of deliberations of 4/2/19, the selectmen determined reductions to the proposed budget in the amount of $26,567.00, along with increases to revenue of $160,000, which results in a decrease of the mill rate from 0.82 to 0.585. And then in item 10, this is under the Brownstone Avenue land purchase. The basically the second sentence in there should read, the town has asked the seller to test the pipeline under the road. And then the third sentence, the seller has agreed to test the pipeline at operating pressure and is asking the town to split the $2,000, we need to add the $2,000 before the word increase, the $2,000 increase in the cost of this test for the extra nitrogen required. And then the next sentence should read, the amount of the increase to be paid by the town is $1,000, because the total cost increase was $2,000, we'd be paying half of that. So with those changes, that's my motion to approve the April 3rd minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. April 17, Jim, were there any changes on those?
I didn't have any changes on that one.
So there are no changes for the April 17 minutes as presented. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The special meeting of March 26, 2019. Were there any changes?
No, the only other one was April 10th when we get there.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve March 26?
Yes. So moved.
Motion made by Lou, seconded by Rick.
Yes.
Any changes, errors, omissions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. April 2. Motion to approve April 2.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Ralph. Any changes? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And April 10, Jim?
All right, yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the April 10th minutes with just the following change. Item 3, adoption of the water and sewer budgets. Lou Pierre made the motion to adopt the water and sewer budgets for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. We just need to add seconded by Jim Tripp, just so that we can show the motion was made and seconded before it was approved.
Are there any other changes?
That's the only change on that.
So do you move adoption with those amendments?
Yeah, that's
Is there-
my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Jim, would you mind giving your notes to
No,
Laura?
not at all, not at all.
I believe it was
Jim
I
made the
made it.
motion and Ben
Jim.
seconded.
Seconded by Ben.
Jim made it.
Jim made it.
Ben
Ben
seconded.
I
second.
made it with the motion to approve as amended.
Okay. We do have a proclamation under communications to National Public Works Week. And Jim, you want to mention the special event that will be going on the week of May 19th through 25th?
Yeah, sure. It's basically it's a recognition of the work that gets done by all the different public works, around the state. This is something that's happening in a lot of other communities. We're recognizing it here, and we're actually going to follow this up. In addition to the proclamation recognizing the hard work that's being done by our crews, we're also going to have a joint event, probably a good time to mention that, We're gonna take that time with the town and the Portland Lions Group, we're gonna work together on basically a food drive for the food bank. We're now, right now, thinking that's gonna be towards the end of June, which is outside the window for this week, but we don't want it to be too close to the food drive that is done at the beginning of May with the post office. So we don't want to collide those two and overwhelm the food bank. So it's a good recognition, and it's also going to be a good opportunity where we're going to work together and do something for the community with it.
Okay, thank you. And we have a guest here too, from Connecticut Natural Gas. Vic Frixell is here, and I'm going to ask you to go to the podium and address us about natural gas safety. And if you could just spell your name, Victor, for our recording secretary so she can put it in a minute.
Sure, it's F-R-Y-X-E-L-L. Just as you would think to spell it, I'm sure. So thank you for having me here tonight to speak a little bit about natural gas safety. Just a quick question, because I can speak for hours on this topic. So just a quick, like, 5-10 minute overview is what you're kind of looking for?
10 minutes, or
Okay.
whatever you feel comfortable
All right.
with, Vic, that's fine.
So I'm here representing Connecticut Natural Gas. They are the natural gas provider in the town of Portland. CNG has been around since 1848. They initially were the Hartford Gas Light Company back when people used manufactured gas for lighting. And then electricity was invented, and then, CNG was sold and merged through with other different municipalities and became Connecticut Natural Gas in the 60s. So we, Connecticut Natural Gas, I'll just give you a quick overview of our territory. There's 4 gas companies in the state. There's Connecticut Natural Gas, Southern Connecticut Gas, which is a sister company to CNG, so we're owned by the same parent company. And then there's Yankee Gas, or Eversource, and then Norwich is a municipality, has municipal gas and electric. So CNG we go as far north as Granby, Connecticut, and as far west as Burlington, Kensington, as far east as Yukon, and as far south as it was Portland up until a couple of years ago, and then we jumped a little further south into East Hampton, and then 90 miles south of here we serve the town of Greenwich. CNG is approximately 186,000 natural gas customers, and in Portland we have about 500 natural gas customers. We've been in Portland, I believe we entered Portland probably about 1996 when the Paley Farms development was made. That was a quick, easy one for us to get over from the Glastonbury line. And then, obviously, we then worked with the town to, pick up some schools and public buildings and then residences along the way as we extended our gas main. So our parent company is Avangrid, and that's a U.S.-based company, but owned by a Spanish company called Iberdrola, which is either the first or second largest producer of wind energy in the world. So in the Northeast, so in New York, Maine, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, our parent Avangrid has approximately 990,000 natural gas customers. And Susan reached out to me, I would say probably in November of last year, and it was shortly thereafter the horrific incident that occurred up in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and Attleboro in the Merrimack Valley that Columbia Gas had on or about September 17th, where they experienced an overpressurization of their gas system. And I really can't get into the details and the real specifics of it because it's really truly only speculation on my part, but I really do have an idea of what happened out there. But the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, will issue their final report on that, and it will take a couple of years, but what happened was, so we take delivery of natural gas from the pipeline companies, and our gas comes from, well, pretty much most of it now comes from Marcellus Shale in Pennsylvania, shale gas, but there's still some that comes down in Louisiana. We used to get some from Canada, and there's a fair amount of LNG, liquefied natural gas. So we take gas delivery from the pipeline companies at hundreds of pounds, so it can be 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 1,200 psi in these transmission lines that really traverse the country everywhere, and for the most part they're all underground. And a consumer uses natural gas in their house at their stove top or their water heater or their range or their barbecue or their fireplace or their fire pit at the really what's called inches water column. So it's about 3.5 inches water column at the burner tip. So what is inches water column? Well, there's 28.8 inches water column in a pound. So that really is like a quarter of a pound of gas pressure that's in your house, that's in the line in most applications. So in real simple terms, that system in Merrimack Valley, Massachusetts was designed to have inches water column in the mains and services, 7-inch water column gas, which is a quarter pound of pressure. And something went terribly wrong, and it caused, not sure what the final pressure was, but it caused 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds of gas pressure to enter people's homes and equipment. So, when you're burning a flame on a gas stove at a quarter of a pound or even less, it's maybe on high, the flame is maybe a couple of inches high. Well, when all of a sudden, that quarter pound of gas pressure goes to 10, 15, 20 pounds, and that's speculation on my part, at what it ultimately ended up to. But, that flame will then lift off the burner and will easily become an 8-foot flame. And these are old systems, old cast iron piping systems that they had their infrastructure in the streets in the city of Lawrence that just weren't designed to handle more than a quarter pound or half a pound of gas pressure. So the good news in Portland is it's a modern system. So the CNG system here in Portland is a new system. We operate, it's a 100-pound design system, so that means that our mains in the streets at most will have 100 pounds of gas pressure in them. It depends upon temperatures and demand, time of year. It may drop down to 70, 80 pounds of pressure. And then all the gas meters and the pressure regulators, which reduce the gas pressure for a customer's use, are all installed outside. So, that's the beauty of having a modern system. So all the CNG's equipment is on the outside of the homes, the buildings. I mean, just when I was walking into this building, just out of habit, I'm a gas guy, you look for the gas meter, and I saw it in the back, and it's outside, and the regulator's there, and everything's safe, and there's posts to protect it in case somebody, decides to back their vehicle into it. So Portland really does not have any concern with that type of issue that occurred in Merrimack Valley, because it's a modern system, it's pressure gas, all of our metering, pressure regulation equipment is outside. So what is changing in the gas industry? There's a lot of things that are changing, and it really started in 2011. There was a horrific explosion in San Bruno, California. PG&E had a major pipeline issue, and it really caused a few deaths and a lot of damage. So since then, the DOT and the NTSB and all those bodies that regulate either on a federal level or a state level have implemented new rules and new procedures. And now, as a result of what occurred at Columbia Gas in Massachusetts, the state of Massachusetts is passing legislation for more oversight of gas companies. The state of Connecticut currently, the Gas Pipeline Safety Unit, which is part of PURA, which is part of DEEP in the state of Connecticut, also has some bills that are currently, I'm sure, are going to fly through, because it puts more oversight on the LDCs, the local distribution companies, of which CNG is. And most things that unfortunately seem to happen really are human error. With anything, and that's really what, probably what the NTSB report will show. it's not enough oversight or not enough supervision or procedures, things of that sort. So that and that will come out, in a couple of years. But I do want to assure you, natural gas is very safe. It's lighter than air. The specific gravity of air is 1. The specific gravity of natural gas is 0.60. So it just wants to vent up to the atmosphere, whereas propane is heavier than air, and that wants to go down to the ground and puddle. So the system here is very safe. We have a very active gas pipeline safety unit in the state of Connecticut, and that's the department that's part of PURA, and they are out every single day showing up unannounced on our crews that are doing work, our own in-house employees, our contractor crews. And I'll give you some facts about CNG in the sense of leak response. So we have 186,000 customers, and we respond to about 7,000 suspected gas odor calls every year. On average, some years it's 6,300, some years it's 7,200, but so on average it's about 7,000, and we're required to respond within 30 minutes during regular business hours and within 45 minutes outside of regular business hours, so nights, weekends, holidays, and that's a measure that was put on us by the PURA, and we consistently hit 99.9% on our leak response, and that really is one of the best in the nation. And a sister company, Southern Connecticut Gas, based out of Orange, they really serve the major cities in New Haven, Bridgeport, and 22 surrounding towns. Similar results there. They have about 207,000 customers. They have a few more gas odor calls they respond to, maybe 7,400 a year, but similar 99.8, 99.9% leak response. So, and that really, that's huge. And what's that, 0.1 that we don't get there? Well, that's when there's a blizzard, or that's when, there's a car pile up somewhere. So we have technicians on staff 24/7, 365, and then we also have employees that are on call to come in as well. So I did bring in that cardboard box. I'll leave that behind with you, Susan. But I did bring scratch and sniffs, so that really, it's a little thing that goes out with the bill. I just heard today on TIC 1080 radio they're running some safety ads right now through the Northeast Gas Association. But if you scratch it, you can smell what natural gas smells like, and it's really rotten eggs, and natural gas has no odor, so we add mercaptan to it. That's what gives it the odor. And then the biggest threat that any gas company has is really people's failure to call before you dig. So homeowners, contractors, anybody that puts a shovel in the ground, there's a free service available in Connecticut and in any other state, and I have information on that to leave behind. It's 811, and you can dial 811 and you can say, hey, I'm going to plant some arborvitae in my yard, and they'll within a couple of days, within 48 hours, they'll send somebody out and they'll mark the water lines, the cable, the telephone, the gas, the electric, sewer, and gray water, I think, as well. So that is the biggest threat that we see every single day. And now that it's the blacktop plants are open, everybody's doing repaving, everybody's fixing up their yards. Once it stops raining, I think that's going to happen in the next week or two. So on an average day in the summertime, we respond to 1 or 2 hits between CNG and SCG at Southern Connecticut of our line being hit by somebody with a shovel or a backhoe. A couple weeks back in Durham, North Carolina, a contractor putting in a new sidewalk augured through a 2-inch pressure gas line, and it caused, I'm sure you may have saw it, it was on the news, it caused a couple of fatalities, a lot of devastation. So that is the biggest threat to any natural gas system. All gas piping, unlike electric's overhead and buried, but all gas piping is buried. So, and it's typically buried a couple of feet underground. And a lot of gas piping now nowadays in use is all a plastic pipe, so it doesn't take a lot to go through it. That's why 811 is a service that everybody, homeowners, contractors, municipalities, everybody needs to take advantage of when doing any type of work, because that really is hands down the biggest threat and causes a lot of devastation, and is so preventable with just a phone call. So that's a kind of a brief, quick overview. Are there any questions from anybody?
Questions from the audience? Bob?
If you suspected a leak in the natural gas, would you just call 911?
So, absolutely. So, we advise customers, you call the gas company, call 911. You can do both. You can just call the gas company. In our bill inserts, and I have some scratch and sniffs that we'll leave behind, it has our 800 number, our leak number, but it also does, advise callers to call 911 as well. So we work hand in hand with fire departments on leak response. A lot of times people will just call 911 and then the fire department responds. Some of them have equipment to detect gases, not necessarily natural gas. They can't really discern if it's what type of gas it is, but they always call the local gas company for assistance in most cases. So.
And then if you do suspect a leak, is there a set of steps that is published that you should,
Yeah. So,
A, B, C, and D?
and I will leave that with you. It is absolutely in there. It's also on our website, which is www.cngcorp, so cngcorp.com. But it's the basic things. I mean, we advise callers to leave the premises. Do not open windows or close windows, because we don't want you to alter the explosive limit, potential explosive limit that is in the structure at the time. So the best thing to do, don't turn on any lights. Don't, do anything that could cause a spark. Don't just get out of the house. A house can be replaced. A human life can't be replaced. So get out of the house and call for safety. But I will leave you. There's a few different safety items in that cardboard box. Any other questions?
Our Portland's Emergency Management Director is here tonight, Don Goen. And Don does a lot of education. We do have a community emergency response team, and they meet monthly. And Don and the team do a lot of education. So I'm hoping that this may be one of many educational sessions that we can have for our residents. We'll start with the brochure. We'll start with you being here,
Yep.
Dick, and we'll keep in touch. And I think maybe Don and the CERT team will also be anxious to get more education.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're available for we teach fire departments, so we have a program that we do. It takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we try to hit every fire department every 3 years. Some don't respond, others want us every year. We also offer for schools, for elementary schools, education. So Susan has my email. I mean, that really is the best way to reach me, because I bounce between Southern Connecticut Gas, Berkshire Gas, and Massachusetts and CNG. So email's the quickest and easiest way. But we are more than happy to to speak to any group. And again, I really am the operations manager of field service, so I have responsibility for everything from the outlet of the valve on the outside where the gas meter is. But then there's we have other departments that handle everything underground, and then we have, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but we have a big tank in Rocky Hill. That's a liquefied natural gas tank, and we also have another one of those down in Milford on the Housatonic River. So, and we also, have a management group that can speak to those, and if there's any concerns or issues. So,
Anything from the Selectmen? Ben?
I'll just touch on, it was probably 10 years ago. So remember that incident at Grandview? There was when they originally put the road in, they didn't cut off the bleeder valve all the way at the top. And one of my plow trucks it came through the pavement and we sheared it, no fault of ours. But your response was excellent. Susan got school buses up there. They evacuated the whole community. But
Yes.
yeah. Well, that's good to hear that we were quick, and
Yeah,
sometimes, those purge valves, it's a purge riser,
I don't know the technical.
Yeah,
term,
yeah.
But apparently it was supposed to be much below the asphalt.
Right, exactly.
Not flush.
Right, no, not at all,
And,
absolutely.
there was a slight odor in Town Hall. This was
Mhm.
maybe 8 years ago, 5 to 8 years ago. And I called 911, and the gas company arrived very quickly, as did the fire department. So
Yeah.
it was less than 30 minutes. I was quite impressed that you got there that quickly.
Good.
It was a trivial leak that had started, and it was very important to have you there and take care of it. And
Yeah.
shut the gas off, made sure everything was safe, and we had it repaired the next day. So.
Yeah, and that's good. And you know, any strange odor, people typically call us, and that's what we want them to do. I mean, the percentage of leaks that we actually find are really very, very few. You know, the odorant, the mercaptan that we add is very pungent, and it is that for a reason. You know, because we really do want it to smell pretty nasty. Yeah.
I mean, we're a big customer. All our schools are, except for one of our firehouses, 2 of the 3 firehouses, this building, as well as town hall and the police department. So it is a very efficient fuel, but it's something certainly we have to be schooled in and be careful of. I know there's many residents that also utilize the natural gas, and
Yep.
many that would actually like to have it that don't have it. So
Right.
there's
And
that element too.
The only thing I was surprised,
Yeah.
Spring Street, I'm surprised you guys didn't
Yeah.
opt, the road's getting torn up, it would've been cheap and easy to put this pipeline in, and they said no. I was
Oh,
surprised.
We
Yeah.
asked
Yeah,
Oh,
several
really?
times.
I mean-
Yeah, you rejected us.
yeah, literally, just go put your main, you got it on high, bring it
Right.
You say that so nicely.
Yeah, and I can't, you know, I really can't speculate why. I mean, obviously it's dollars and cents, and what's the load and the return. But I don't, not familiar with Spring Street or anything of that. I mean, if you do want to zip me an email, I can.
Susan can, you got a few weeks to get it in.
I can,
Sure, I'll send it to
you
you.
know, at least put you in, or find out a little bit more about it. So, you know, I've been around CNG a long time. I know, you know, a fair amount of people there. So, and that is the time to put a pipe in the ground. You know,
Doesn't get any cheaper.
right? No, absolutely, I agree. And you know, thank you again, you know, to the town of
Thank you.
Portland for being a customer, because customers, we're not, you know, Eversource. I mean, we're not the power company, so people have options, and we appreciate, you know, customers choosing natural gas, and you know, in our minds, it's the fuel of choice. But it is very safe when, you know, handled and used safely, and when everybody follows all safety procedures. So
Absolutely. Well, this has been very good to
Yeah,
have you
thank
here
you.
and very informative. If you'd like to leave.
I will leave
brochures,
that box. Yeah, there's all
maybe
kinds of
just
stuff in
leave
there.
some on the table so our residents can.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions tonight? Don, did you have anything to add?
I do not.
Oh.
Well, what I do have is I'll get your email. Yeah,
Right here on the table. So anyone who would like to get them at the meeting tonight, and the
Okay.
rest is bring back. Thank you very much, Bob, for suggesting. It's very helpful.
There you go.
All right, good night.
Just as a point of information. I was listening.
I don't know. We can either leave the door. Do you want to open the door? I don't.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
So people don't think we're in a session. Right, thank you.
Just
Yes,
just
Lou.
as a point of information, on William Street, when the gas company brought up the gas line to the church, to
Yeah.
Zion Lutheran, we went over and asked them, could we have gas up further? And they did say, the gentleman that was there and people we contacted, that if you wanted the gas, could you find 3 or 4 more people on the street that wanted that, and then they would bring it to our house, and they'd bring it to those houses as well. So maybe on Spring Street, if there was a poll that they did or somebody did to say, are there people on this street that would like gas?
they didn't do a poll. I have 2 units on that road, and I was not asked.
No, I would
And
say-
then one potential customer did ask, so
Yeah,
I
and
think
that's what
it
we
was
did.
Vic's
Yeah.
predecessor
Okay.
that we had talked to, but I'm gonna send him, after tonight, I'll send him an email
'Cause
and
I
have him
would-
check it out.
It is a
It's
great
great
fuel.
idea.
It's definitely
Yeah, I
by
mean,
far
if
the
there's
best.
3 or 4 people on that street that want it,
Yeah.
They may.
they'll bring it.
Yeah,
They'll put it there.
cause it is on High Street to Valley View School there.
Yeah.
It's at the top.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's not too far off on Main.
No, it isn't.
It hits one of those. It goes to that church. So they could go the other way, I guess, up Church Street
Yeah.
and over. Because
Yeah.
I think it goes to that
Does it go
white
to that,
church.
to Methodist Church?
I think so. I could be wrong.
I know Trinity has it, and St. Mary's does. Yeah. And First Church,
Van Zyl and Luther.
and Zion.
They're on a roll.
Public comment, any public comment at this point? Okay. Monthly budget report, Tom Robinson is here. Welcome, Tom.
So you have your budget reports in front of you, your revenue and expense summaries. So start with the revenues. The current revenue collections for tax collections are doing quite well. As you can see there, we only have 0.58 left percent to collect. So we're doing quite well on the collections in that. The account number 0013, 3 zeros and then 13 is supplemental motor vehicle. We're doing better there than we projected, so that's great. Account number 00101, which is educational cost sharing. We did receive our payment in April 30th, and that's we were within $20,000 of what we budgeted. So that's always a really positive thing when you're within that number of such a large number, that we did receive everything except for the $20,000. So that's good.
Do you anticipate getting the other 20?
Do not know.
Okay, just curious.
Usually that number, there's adjustments during the year that are made, so that usually the April payment's your last payment.
Thank you.
The 00201 was the pilot state-owned property. This year, the estate did pay on that property, and the prior year they hadn't paid much. Therefore, we didn't budget that number. We did receive some monies this year, so that's great. 00214 is miscellaneous state of Connecticut revenue, which is our dial-a-ride revenue. We had we're up $4,000 in that number, and that's mostly there was some that was one where we had some issues receiving some funding there with the transition with Matt and the state changeover with how the dial-a-ride program was being run and administered. And in fiscal year 18, we hadn't received all of the payment, so we were due. I think there was a quarter that we had not received, so that, and we were not sure if we were going to get that. So that money did get recorded in this year as it came in, so that's good. And there is another. I think there's another quarter left in this year's to possibly receive. In 00324. And that one, that money that comes in, going back to the last one, that money there is, it comes in for the purpose of kind of that municipal aging of the elderly department in the expenditure side, and that's the bus drivers that we pay out of there, the van drivers. We have a bus that we have acquired through a grant with Cromwell, and we also have a van that we had received as I think it was maybe the American Red Cross had gone out and weren't doing that any longer, so we received that van, and we have a car that we utilize to drive. And those are things that we do for that, and have those expenses, and then we do receive the grant funding back. So it's good to see that we did receive some of the monies that we were owed from last year, and then continually to receiving payments there to say the good job by Mary Pont and getting the paperwork in and getting the monies received from the state. 00324 is police private duty. That's showing it's up $7,000, but we have, as of now, we have $39,000 outstanding for March, and another $17,000 that will be billed for April. So there's been a lot of activity there by the police department. A lot of it's been out of the district. They've been working in Middletown quite a bit. As Middletown has a lot of activities that warrant the need. So they will go over to there and do private duty work, and the monies come back to us here in the revenue side, and you'll see the correspondingly over the expense being higher as well, but the revenues quite exceeding the expense. So that's a positive endeavor there. The 00328, that is structural permits. That one's under by about $236,000, and that's, you have more activity for May and June expected, and the majority of that was our anticipation of the Brainerd Place fees coming in that did not actually come in. So that one's a little bit of a challenge, but on 00354, which is on the next page, that's the other revenue. You'll see that is up by 144,000 over what we budgeted. There, we received a 224,000 from our bond sale, which exceeded our expectation. And then we had received some monies from, I believe it was from the Kerma distribution, and then there was a loan that had been outstanding that was paid off from a resident. And then we have had some positive revenues in investment income. There's twofold, and for that reason, one is interest rates since we had done the budget that year, interest rates had gone up positively quite a bit. Now they're up over about between 2 and 2.4 now, where they were much lower than that at the time. So that's a positive there, and it's also because of we weren't necessarily sure of the timing of when the money and the spending of the money. There is money. There's interest proceeds from the bond monies, so we're getting interest revenue that is that's required to go back to the general fund. So that's recorded there as well. Sir Shar, did you have a question?
Yeah, what's back on the pilot state property?
So the pilots.
What is that?
So there's this would be an assessor form that's completed by the assessor, and it's a property that's a state-owned property within town, and then that gets submitted on a form, and then they pay back a percentage. So pilot means payment in lieu of taxes.
Oh, okay.
So they do a payment in lieu of taxes, and last year with the budget issues in the state, I don't think they paid anything, or it was a very, very small number. So we budgeted zero, not expecting. And then this year they did pay the pilot. They did go up. You'll see on the veterans, they didn't. The veterans exemption will usually get around $5,500. For this year, they paid a lower number on that, so it was down to the 28. So it varies on what percentage they pay and how much they pay. But there's a form that the assessors would apply to the state for, and then we generally receive funding on those. That's what those items are.
Does that have to do with their buildings, or the state buildings, or also state property? I'm just curious, how do they?
Generally, from my recollection of it, when I looked at it, it was buildings.
Okay,
Yeah.
That makes more sense, because I can only think of, was there about?
So what
I can think
do
of
you
3
know
establishments.
what state property there is within
I
that town?
would have deferred to the assessor on that.
AEP out on Great Hill Road.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
The-
And then
the repair facility on Freestone,
Freestone.
and then the depot, the train depot.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the only 3 structures, but then obviously they own most of the state forest. There's a lot of other state-owned property, so
Right.
it makes sense that it has to do with
Buildings,
structures,
Yeah.
because there's a
Okay.
benefit for the community with
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
land.
All right. So that help you on the revenue side? Okay, so then the expense side, go through here. Generally on the expense side, I just try to touch upon areas that may have some issues in them. As you can review the other, if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll try to do my best to answer them. Elections, we're globally doing well. We have the budget referendum up there. Appears they're over budget in election supplies. They probably have not paid for their canvassing work yet, and then they have the election to go through, for the referendum to go through. So that's going to be close. I mean, that's going to be one to finish to the end there. So we'll see how they come up there. But I just wanted to bring that in light to you. On page 5, Fund Department 23, I just wanted to point out what I was talking about with the private duty. We budgeted 130, they spent 162. So there's a $32,000 deficit in that line item, but you're getting much more, much more money back in the revenue side. So there's a revenue aspect of that, and then there's clearly the expense side of that. But the revenue side exceeds the expense. And then on page 7, the town engineer, that department, as activities continue and as some of the developments go, there needs to be more work there. That's been a budget that we've talked about for many years, and it's a busy one as we need that information for the professional standards that they hold. So subdivision planning, you'll see that's a pretty big one of over about $7,000. That's for the planning and subdivision. For the land use department utilizes that line mostly. The public works engineering was for MS4 and some stormwater permitting that's been being worked on. There also was bridge inspections that were required to be done and were done. Some of that respective work from those bridge inspections have been complete. So there's been some of those projects that we've been working on with the public works department through one of our grant programs to get some of that. Some of the minor repairs. I think there's one other bridge that we'll continue to monitor the inspection of. The public works department will. The public safety. You'll see some increase there. There was a study done for speed control on Freestone Avenue, and there was also dam inspections. So those are areas that cause some overages on the town engineer. Page 38. I'm sorry, Department 38. That would be page 9. Snow removal. Right now it's a negative $41,000. There is some monies there encumbered. And some of those are there's bills to be paid. There would be salt that they would like to acquire to have enough salt on hand for the next year. But we will see how we'll continue to monitor this throughout the year to see if there's funds available in the fourth quarter to doing any of the more purchasing there. On page 11. The van stipends. This is the department that I was talking about with the municipal agents of the elderly. As I've been told, there's been additional needs for assistance and rides and delivering and driving some of the seniors to various activities and appointments and things of that nature. That is still in budget, but it's as work will continue for the next 2 months, it could be close to being over by the end of the fiscal year. But we are generating revenue from the grant side. And that's the other departments are we're monitoring there's ups and there's downs, and that's kind of how we always monitor our budgets, looking at them individually and collaboratively as the management of the directors do and look and monitor it in totality. So we did have a few more terminations this year than in the past, so that we were a little higher expended there. That's on page 12, but hopefully we'll be able to mitigate that within another line item in that department.
What he means is people have either left or retired.
Correct.
They weren't- That term is not correct. No one has been.
Yeah, we utilize. I mean, I utilize it. We're terminated as they no longer work here, but that can also mean other things. But any other questions for me? Sure, Mr. Sharp. Go ahead.
Can you comment on the water and sewer, back on page 2?
So generally, good.
Yeah, you didn't say anything on it, but I'm just looking at the numbers there, and it looks like the variance looks kind of high on the sewer side. How do you think we're gonna end up?
Well, yeah, I think you're missing a fourth quarter billing.
Okay.
That would be that would have gone out.
I mean, is there any red flag there, or are you kind of comfortable with?
Well, there's always a red flag in these departments, but I mean the red flag that was built into the budget, you know. So we know that, you know, that's a known. That was why some of the discussions we had in the current year when we increased the rates and things of that capacity. You know, you more or less know that there's sewer usage charges cannot get to the level in there because the rates weren't high enough for that. And we, you know, the selectmen worked toward a goal to try to get closer to that goal. So the rates have been increased since, but in the current year, yeah, that would, you know, it'll be hard, definitely hard, you
So
know,
we
to
collected
obtain to get to these. This again.
Three-quarters?
This
So
again
far.
is the billing. So
Okay.
then we make it on the usage. That's the billing of it, and then the collections get adjusted on a year-end basis through an adjustment through the receivable account.
But if we collected for 3/4 or billed, let's see, we have one more billing quarter. coming.
I believe the billing quarter for April would not be in this yet.
Okay, so, all right, so between now and the June 30th, there should be another chunk of.
Yeah,
money
the third quarter.
coming in.
Yeah, there's not 3 billings. There's not 4 billings in this.
Yeah, okay.
The next billing's in July, so there
All right,
definitely
so
was a
we're-
billing. There would have been a billing in April that just
Isn't in here.
that wouldn't be in there yet. I
Okay.
believe that must not have
All
been.
right, so
that-
we're not.
I mean, it's the first
we're
of
not
the
that far
it's
along.
the first of the month, so the journal entries usually don't get posted until sometime in the first week of May for April. So you wouldn't have that large
not-
posting into there. So that's your fourth quarter,
Okay.
correct?
What generates the unmetered sales and how do you determine that number? I think I know the answer, but is this the fire department?
No, for
It says
the
unmetered sales. And it's a big number. I'm just curious how we,
I mean, everything is coded based on the way the billing system works. So.
and you may.
That would be that's how it's billed through Kusi. I would have that right off the top of my head. I'm not going to say I'm going to remember. I'd have to go look at my folder to say exactly what that was. But I mean, I know that those that is how that component comes in. So
How does that come in?
we'll get you a better
Is
answer
that
on that.
a fire department or no?
No, that would be the sales to public authorities. Is that number?
So, like the water wagons and all that?
Sale to public authorities would be more or less sales to like us or other people
No,
that
it
are
would
public.
not be the water people. Ben, I wanna say. that-
Private fire protection is that's the fire department, people, all the people's private fire.
The meter charges is what the meter sales would be, that big number. That would be the typical household and business. But I believe the unmetered sales could be what you're referring to.
Is it all of our building? I'm just trying to, where's that
No,
number come
it's
from?
not our, that I believe would be, Tom, the sales that would go to some of the other water companies that deliver.
Yeah, so
pools and
the
things of
user
that nature.
charges for, that's your interest in
I don't wanna
liens.
say for sure,
No problem.
because of that
There's-
term,
yeah.
because it is metered.
Right. That, because
But
it's such a
it's
specific
not
dollar
the-
amount, I'm trying to figure out.
It's not the
Okay.
typical house and business.
Right, which that's a good thing because it helps us when we have that minimum and all that. I'm not trying to create any problems here. I'm just trying to see where how we generated that number, but I'll get my answer next time. I
Dave was
appreciate
gonna clarify.
Who?
Dave.
Oh.
Dave, I'm sorry, I didn't see
Typically
it.
what that is non-revenue water, which is, it comes right, some comes, there's non-revenue and there's unaccounted. Basically, non-revenue is water that's used for sweeping, water that's used for fire protection, water that's used for flushing. Okay, your unaccounted water basically is water that we paid for but have not billed for, which could be a leak, and so we should.
But I don't think that's what he's referring to here.
No.
No, because this is income, Dave. This is
Correct.
revenue that's come in.
For unmetered water, somebody paid.
But that term, I don't think is correct. This is,
I know what you're saying, Dave, and but I don't believe that has to do with the line item we're talking about.
no.
I wonder if
Yeah,
this
there's
is
revenue
the-
coming in, and I'm curious.
Is this the revenue from
where
the
is-
fire hydrants?
No, so the revenue from the fire hydrants. So maybe if I go through every line, I'll remember back. I'll remember this, which I said I can try to get it.
I was
So-
gonna say, Tom, in all the years, you've answered every question I've ever asked.
Interfund transfer in is the money that's going in from the general fund to pay for the water, the hydrants. Investment income is the investment income that's held on the bond funds that are being paid. Cross connection fees are just that, fees that are charged based on cross connection sales of public authorities, or sales that like the town of Portland and other public entities would pay. The service connections are connections for services that we would hook up. Private fire protection is for the people that have private fire within their buildings and homes. They pay that private fire protection. Metered sales is just that, your metered sale of water. Your unmetered sale of water is, maybe it's the ones that people don't have meters. There's some people that don't have meters, right? They're based on the well. They're based on
No.
No.
I don't know, whatever. I'm not going to answer that because I'm not right. I can't recollect it off the top of my head, so I'll
This might be the
double check
water
it.
wagons, right, Susan?
What about the water wagon?
That's what I,
Big tanker truck
that's
comes.
what I would say.
That's what we think, it's just we'll change the term, we'll change the phrase, I think, is where
Right.
Susan's thinking, but I don't
Right.
want to think for
It's a
Susan.
sale of water.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
is not,
It's-
read by us, but it is metered by the user. So you've seen
Right.
them, the
Well, it
meters
is
are
read
on
by
the
us,
wall.
actually.
I'm sorry?
It is read by us. He
Well,
stops
he
by.
but he meters it.
Yes, but he stops by,
Jim
Jimmy.
Nursick?
Yeah, he'll come by and read the meter, whoever has the meters. And he then records them and they get a bill accordingly.
Right.
But my guess is that's what it is, but that's easy to fix. But sorry if I caused all this problem over, but I do want to know what it is.
No, it's not a problem.
Not a problem, I kinda had the same, was wondering.
Pretty sure that's what it is.
I just wanted to beat Rick to it.
Okay, Ben, keep me on my toes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Good report, Tom, thank you.
Thank you.
The next is a resolution in your packets for the appointment of engineering and energy consultant for wastewater and related industrial processes. Bob had put out a RFQ and reviewed the applications that came in and believed that the best is in front of you, which is Wright Pierce. Whereas the Water Pollution Control Authority is in need of engineering and energy consultant services to evaluate our current system and assist in the plans and management of improvements as specified in our current RFQ, RFP processes. The services that may be requested to be performed but not limited to the following: system improvements, energy efficiency management processes and improvements, plant upgrades including off-site buildings, distribution improvements, funding including grant applications, both state and federal, rate reviews, regulatory improvements, permitting, and other business matters. Therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Selectmen appoints the firm of Wright Pierce of 169 Main Street, 700 Plaza, Middlesex, Middletown, Connecticut, to provide professional engineering and energy consulting services for wastewater system, and be it further resolved that Wright Pierce is including J.K. Muir LLC, a woman-based entity who specializes in energy efficiency evaluations, preparations of energy funding grant applications, and keeps current with incentive programs as part of their project team. The project team includes other sub-consultants for permitting and environmental compliance assistance, survey, geotechnical support, and hazardous materials testing. And be it further resolved that Susan Bransfield, for selectwoman or her designee, is authorized to execute any and all documents as it pertains to the engineering and energy consulting services for wastewater and related industrial operations. So Wright Pierce and their J.K. Muir would be providing us with the services associated with engineering services for the water pollution control plant, as well as an energy consultant, because we're always concerned with how we can improve the energy usage and reduction of usage at the plant. So, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Ralph, and discussion.
What kind of cost is involved?
I don't have the cost in front of me, and I don't anticipate at this point what types of projects, Mike. It would be based on our budget, which we do have, the ability to spend for improvements on the sewer. And certainly Bob was sorry he couldn't be here tonight. He had a personal matter that he had to take care of with his family, so he couldn't be here tonight, but we'll certainly invite him back and he can talk about some of the details.
So this would be under next year's budget? The expenditure for this would be?
It could be
Out of
this
next
year. I would anticipate more likely next year.
Okay.
But there's not a specific dollar amount. This is your, instead of Jacobson Engineering, we would use Wright Pierce for anything associated with water pollution control and energy consultant.
Is there a specific need right now, like is there something immediate to bring them in on, or is this more we're getting ourselves prepared for
Yes.
what might happen
Yes.
6 months or a year down
Yes.
the
And on occasion, things break, and
Okay.
they need to be looked at, or we might consult with them to assist us in making certain that what we're doing to be in compliance with regulations and so forth is correct. So I think it's good practice to have a firm that would be skilled in these areas that we can call upon and not wait until we need them to then try and find them. So we're trying to be a little proactive.
Okay, got it.
As far as the energy audit and all that, isn't there a lot of firms that do that for nothing?
Well, this would be, in the event that we did decide to proceed with an energy change or an energy improvement, they could do the analysis to determine if it's something that would be viable and good for us to do. Or if we did contract with an actual provider, they could review it and see if there was something that could be of help. A lot of these energy performance contracts would be available to us for payment by the savings that you have. And that's something that we are looking at, which is called, there's a name for it. Do you remember what it is? It's energy performance contracting, I believe, is the term. So as the energy performance improves, that's how its payment is made. But this company, should we choose to use them, would be helpful to us in determining whether or not it's viable or something that we want to do.
I know you didn't bring the rates, but would anybody oppose to removing the motion until next time when we have the rates? I don't like voting on things I don't know numbers personally. I'm sure you.
Honestly, I don't know that the rates are in there. I saw Tom just walked out. I don't know that's part of any contract. Let me just see if he's there. Can you just take,
Well, I guess,
can you allow for a recess
Sure,
for 1 minute?
sure.
Okay, it's a motion to recess.
Sure.
I'll make a motion to recess.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think.
And while we're recessing, just as a point of information, I think that some of these companies that used to do the free evaluations, they used to get some money from the Green Bank, and now the Green Bank money has been used to balance the budget, so there's been a reduction in that money, and all these home energy solution people.
I'm more concerned, is there a minimum?
Well,
Do we
yeah,
have the
agree.
right to go out to bid with it? Well, we should wait till we're back in
Yeah.
session, but.
Yeah,
Oh.
Jen Muir from J.K. Muir, that's her expertise, is utilities, water, sewer, and it's a lot more than
Okay.
light bulbs.
Okay, so Tom will go back to the office and he will get the number. It was the lowest of the three. So if we could just move on to the next item on the agenda, he'll bring it back. So the next item would be, let's see. The go ahead, Jim.
No, I was just talking.
The steering committee to investigate the possibility of non-motorized boat launch on the Connecticut River. This is something that Lou and Rick had asked for. So in your packets is a resolution for your review. Lou?
I had a question.
Yep.
maybe we should wait on this resolution, to vote on this resolution for now, until we find out if the land swap is going to happen with the Exchange Club, or when it's gonna happen. Because that's the spot where we wanna have that boat launch.
Yep.
And if we can't get into that area,
Well,
okay.
I
go
can
ahead,
add
Rick.
something.
Okay.
I mean, it's not official, but I was with Jim Hill last week, and he's said the only holdup is they're waiting for their surveyor to come in. They're in favor of doing the land swap, and it's, I gather from him, it's just, they need to get the official lines drawn with the surveyor. So I don't think there's opposition from the Exchange Club. I think it's gonna happen. Obviously, it hasn't officially happened, so it's still, but he was positive about it, you know, there was no, you know, he said.
Well,
As a matter of fact, he brought it up.
I still agree we should probably do it after the swap.
But I could add, you're only talking about an exploratory committee, not unlike the dog park exploratory committee. You're not going to appoint to the committee until you choose to. What I wanted to bring to you was the option of how you would go about forming a committee. This is not any commitment, but it's rather, at your request, a committee and some of the things that they would be involved with. If you do choose to adopt this, it goes in the minutes and people are aware, and then they can get in touch with us if they want to get involved with it. I don't see the harm in forming a committee with a charge, which you can always change, but it does establish what you're trying to do, and it allows the public to know. And once you make the appointments, which you can wait on, which we did with the dog park exploratory committee until we knew we had people interested. So I don't.
And they may pick other sites, so Susan now convinced me that I'm okay.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
It
you-
might not be site
Well,
specific.
this
They may say
says
there's a better-
Wongunk Meadows, but they could come back and tell you that they don't wanna do it.
Well, they
Or
could
you
say
could-
it's not feasible.
No, mine doesn't.
You know what I
Yours
mean?
says the meadow. Oh, sorry.
I
just-
did
it
put
just-
that in here because that's what I was asked to do.
I would,
Yeah, and
I
I
would almost say
appreciate that.
take that out, because what happens if
Yeah.
they say put it at the other part? You know, I don't know. What if,
Well, I think it's, right now it just says determine the feasibility of the one. I don't see anything that
Oh, that's
stops them
true.
from coming back.
Right, they can
Good
say
point.
it's not
Recommended that it's
feasible,
not feasible,
and
yeah.
then we, you know, they move on.
Rick, you know, I think that
But
with more information than I have right now, I think that this exploratory committee is a good idea. Get it going, get people enthused and excited about this. I think there's a lot of people out there that would love to have access to the river, and I think by then, we'll know what the Exchange Club has. But I think in the beginning, or in between time, there's a group of people out there that probably would love to meet and start some planning. And maybe even grant fundraising or whatever they would need to do, and have to contact the Long Island Sound officials and things like that. So, I retract my suggestion, because I think at this point in time, it's good to have a committee to get going, to do some research, to find out where it's going, and then once the land swap has happened, you know, that would be fine too. So I can support this.
And you may wanna look at the goals, which is to define the non-motorized boat launch standards, confer with the town inland wetlands officer, land use staff, and state officials concerning the rules and regulations associated with a non-motorized boat launch, review previous town boat launch initiatives, determine the feasibility of the Wongunk Meadows launch site, gather information from residents, businesses, and town officials. If there's something else you'd like to add in there, we could.
abutters,
I'm sorry?
abutters of anything we're proposing? 'Cause it's not-
Where do you wanna put abutters?
Same line.
Gather information from abutters?
Well,
Abutting
residents, businesses, town
Okay.
officials, and
Yeah.
abutters.
Sure.
I think that's important.
And abutters, okay? Do you want to ask them to write a report, or is this sufficient so that they could come back and give us their
Let's not
I
overwork
think
them.
this is sufficient,
sufficient?
sufficient,
Okay.
because if in fact DEEP is gonna give us a grant, or we apply for a grant, they're gonna require us to talk to the abutters and let them know that we're doing this project.
So you don't wanna put a butters in?
No, I think it's okay to put the butters in, but
Okay.
the DEEP will probably tell us to do that as well.
I'm not.
It's good to have.
I don't,
So it'll be covered that way.
I don't do this often, but there may want to put an out down at our other park. So it may not just be the long, you may launch up there and you may end up at our Brownstone Park and you
Oh,
get picked
sure.
up. So
Oh, sure.
I don't read that as limiting. It just says, I think Jim will agree from what you said earlier, it just says, the feasibility of that
Yeah.
one. It doesn't limit it, in my opinion, so
No.
I don't think we need to add anything else, but I do believe that would be something to look at, an out, because then you can just meander down and.
You're not necessarily fighting the current.
Right.
Get back up.
Exactly. A guy like me,
But
you know,
is it-
may just wanna float one way.
Right,
Wasn't the channel too close to Brownstone Park or something?
That's for big boats.
That's, the channel runs up in this area, the channel basically runs where Brownstone Park is, right along the Portland side of the river. So it runs quick, but that's why the state initiative that was going on, I believe in the 2008, 2009 timeframe, was actually looking at culling out a launch area, and you would almost launch the boat parallel to the river. So you'd basically come out of the current.
Oh.
It actually would have been a beautiful launch, had the DEP, associated DEP funds to do it hadn't been appropriated for the budget crunch, so.
And this was in the area of our Brownstone Park?
This was in the
Right.
southern area of the Brownstone Park, which is now currently, is part of the rental to parking area. It's the lower part of the parking area, but that's where that was
Okay.
gonna occur. It's actually something that today, if we could actually get something moving on that type of initiative again today, we could implement today and still not, we'd still be able to function, the park as it sits today would still be functional.
Well, the more access, the better.
The more the merrier. Well, that
Yeah.
would give you, actually, at the time, that was gonna be a state launch, which, if you look, there's no, unless you go all the way down on the Portland side, like on the east side of the Connecticut River, you've gotta go all the way down to the Salmon Riverboat launch before you find something else. Other than private, there are private launches that we have, at some facilities here in Portland.
Right.
And some other small.
I'm well aware.
Yeah, but,
There is access for a small boat, or basically a canoe or kayak at Oakham Dock, but it's a little rough. It's a little rugged
This
there.
would, what we're talking about in Waynock would be nicer.
Definitely.
But having the second one eventually would also give us the ability to basically pull the boats out, but also for motorized craft to be able to go in.
Yeah. Kayakers don't mind sharing the launch with motorized.
Motorized don't mind sharing with kayakers as long as we have a launch.
Yeah.
okay, so far, we've just added, after the last bullet, gather information from residents, businesses, town officials, and abutters. Is there anything else you wanna add there?
The organizations that they're touching base with, I think we should add emergency management so that whatever they put together will fit into our emergency operations plan for the town.
Sure. I think we should put that under confer with the town inland wetlands officer, emergency
Management service.
management.
Maybe put in other town agencies, that way we.
Doing any development, if we have like that, we should have an emergency operations or evacuation plan from that organization. So that we make sure that if anything does happen, they have a plan in place to deal with the personnel that would be on site.
Sure. We could say confer with the town and wetlands officer, emergency management officials, land use office, other town departments,
Yep.
and state officials. Did you get that, Laura? After inland wetlands officer, comma, emergency management officials, comma, land use office, comma, other town departments and state officials.
Yeah, because that'll cover fire, police, fire marshal, I think.
Concerning the rules and regulations associated with the non-motorized pool. Thank you, Don. Anything else? So are you okay with that, Lou?
Yeah, I'm
By,
okay.
by establishing the exploratory committee? You're not committing, and should you find interest, I think that would be very valuable. If people are interested in serving, it would be a 5-member with 2 alternates. Is there a motion to approve?
I think-
Lou,
Approve.
second,
Second.
Rick. Further discussion? So as amended by this board, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
I think Lou changed it just because I agreed with him right off the bat.
Appointments to boards and commissions. I will let you know that there was one other committee member that I was in touch with, Amy Jensen, and I think we will withdraw her nomination from the Town Beautification Committee. Her work commitments do not allow her to serve at this time. Every night they've met, she has to work. So she respectfully requests that her name be withdrawn, similar to Mr. Schmidt. I did, by the way, just as an update, Mr. Schmidt, who had been on the Dog Park Exploratory Committee, I spoke with him. I do know him. I just didn't know him by name. Again, someone that had a lot of interest in the Dog Park Exploratory Committee, but his family's work commitments, his wife actually works at night, and he's watching their youngsters, so it doesn't work out for him. So I was glad that I was able to clarify that with him. I sent them both letters to officially say that this board would withdraw their nomination with regret, because we certainly do appreciate their work. And so if someone wanted to just withdraw Amy Jensen's name from.
So moved.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
I second it.
That way we know he's here.
Let Rob.
And it is simply due to work commitments, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries. And as I said, I did send them both a communication with our thanks for their willingness to serve, but their inability. Are there any other appointments to boards and commissions tonight? Are there any there's no refunds of excess payments tonight? Status reports, are there any status reports?
I could provide one on the park.
Okay.
Jim and I attended the every other week, Wednesday call for the park. So we're on that. Just some highlights of what they talked about. They're on the site again, and what they're doing right now is they're just putting topsoil around the outside perimeter areas or retaining walls to get ready to be able to seed it. They obviously, with all the rain that they've dealt with, they've been having washout. So as soon as they can get something in place to try to reduce the amount of washout, that's what they're looking for. So that's what they've been working on. Nick Dorita noted that the building drawings should be in perhaps next week, most likely the week after, and then the building drawings can go to the town for review and see what they come up with regards to the plans. The big thing we talked about was, in general, was trying to get a sense of the schedule. I asked him for that, and he actually is going to provide I said he hoped tomorrow to provide the updated schedule, revised schedule. At this point, what he's looking for is trying to, they're going to plan to topsoil, irrigate, and seed all 4 fields by the end of May. So again, as I've noted, they're going to roll once they're on working on the bigger parts of the project. The splash pad equipment is going to come in the beginning of June. They anticipate it's going to take about 3 weeks work to do all of the piping underneath and all the work. That it's a pretty extensive system. That hopefully will time with when they'll be ready to start to put the foundations down for the buildings. So everything's progressing pretty well. They'll provide me an updated schedule, so we'll probably talk about the end date on that schedule when we do get it. That's with regards to the park. The only thing other things I'd note is the library meeting was canceled last month because there wasn't a quorum, so I have nothing to report there. I wasn't able to attend the dog park meeting, so I don't know if there was anything of significance, Dave, that you could share with us with regard to the dog park meeting, the last one.
Just two things. First of all, last week we invited Carl Johnson to come, wealth of knowledge on town property. He was really helpful in some of the suggested sites we had, giving us pros and cons. And he also suggested two places that we didn't have on our radar screen. We got a
That's what I thought.
The other thing is a week ago, last Saturday, we planned a site visit. It was the morning that rained all morning, so we got rescheduled. So we're looking forward to that. But other than that, we're still moving along.
Thanks. That's for me.
I will, before we go back to the Wright Pierce information, I did want to let you know that Core Tech, which is the name of the company that will be doing the Port Oil pipeline testing, they've committed to conduct the testing of the Port Oil LLC pipeline in accordance with agreed upon terms. And they will prepare for the testing on the afternoon of Tuesday the 14th. Conduct the testing on Wednesday the 15th of May, prepare a finalized report by Friday 17th of May, and prior to the 14th of May, Core Tech will visit the site to assure they have the necessary fittings. They will be doing the 50 pounds per square inch, which is our request for them to test to with the nitrogen. Any questions?
That sounds good.
That's good.
Awesome.
Okay, we will go back then to the Wright Pierce, and I will hand out you. You could give one to Laura, please. And this to Laura, hold on, please. There we go. Thank you, Laura. And the next low bidder is the following, which I just gave to Laura. Thank you, Tom, for getting this. While you're reviewing these, Tom did get in touch with Bob Shea, and the unmetered sales is as we had thought, which is the reading that we do from the company that uses the Portland water to fill pools and other reasons for the water wagon.
We use a hydrant. Anyone who uses the hydrants, they meter the hydrant, then will take the meter reading and then it's billed to the respective party.
Thank you, Tom, for that clarification.
Thank you.
And I'll give
Thank
you a
you for
few
coming
minutes
back.
to review.
Yes, so an RFQ process was held, and an RFP, and then we'll bid over to the RFQ process. There was an RFQ process of 3 people, and then the 2 people were selected for that, to submit RFPs. And from that piece, our Wright Pierce was the low bidder of the 2. Lowest qualified bidder.
And Tom, as far as I'm aware, there's no specific large project. This is more for consultant services.
Yeah, this is like, it's. So this is, so we've, in the past, Ray Pierce was used as a consultant kind of when needed. So, we were thinking that, well, we should test the waters, one and additional, put a request out for, energy services as well with that, as it's a, really important component. And the pricing came back, so this is kind of us appointing a sewer, like town engineer. So if you need to do a sewer project, this is the person more or less that you're gonna go to. to help you through those hard components, which, and then they also help with any of your energy components, and they have some list of subcontractors that they have available to us here. So hopefully they can meet all our needs.
Do we have any experience or working with them, or how do they stack up, say, compared to the other, to Ty and Bond or some of the other engineering firms you looked at? Like, how's their track record?
They've provided service to the town in the past.
They have, okay.
I believe they worked on the upgrades to the sewer plant many years ago. They are one of the companies that provides sewer services, as does Ty and Bond, so they're a very well-known firm. Dave, did you wanna add anything to that, Dave Cuz?
Yeah, Brent Pierce is very well respected. Their forte is more on the sewer side.
Okay.
Than the water side, as well as J.K. McGinn, you're a Thatcher, an energy consultant. He does consulting for all the large water use, sewer utilities throughout the state. And that's their expertise.
So what was going through my mind is, like, we don't just pick them because they're $5 an hour cheaper, say.
Yeah.
Are they good is really what I wanna know.
That's-
They have a good track record out there.
Well, I mean, we followed the town's purchasing policies, and we went out and requested did an RFQ. The RFQs came in, they were reviewed, they were determined by the public works director to go out and get the 2 requests for proposal. And these are a long time relationship that we've had with this entity, but this is really just trying to go that extra mile to get it all solidified in an agreement, get it all approved. They're in their proposal here. That says that they have over 75 on-call clients for this component. They're a long list of clients that they have in their repertoire.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Is there, how long is it? Or is that out?
It would be open-ended typically. We don't typically have a set number of years for consultant. What we would have is an annual basis. If the numbers change, then they come to us and let us know that. But as of this, the following labor costs for the team members in our proposal and so forth.
What's the term?
Rates are current as of February 2019, based on salary costs within each classification. Actual billing rates based on actual salary costs of individuals assigned to the project.
Nothing in here would prevent us from terminating if we felt
And
necessary.
you don't even have to use them. I mean, they're
No.
an on-call consultant.
No.
But we wanted to go out and make sure that we are getting and using the best qualified as well as a competitive price.
Thank you.
There are, there's items that are within the capital budget that you see listed in requirements that are there, and we want to be able to move some of those things forward, get assistance, and with that being said, I thought it was a good idea working with Bob to go out to get that RFQ process and RFP so that you would have a new numbers, new agreement as it had been some time. So just to refresh that as on the sewer side to help with those needs, and obviously there's energy needs in that environment as well. And if they can come up with some solutions there, that's always a helpful thing as well.
In the future, where will these funds come out of? What account? And how are we,
Sure.
so in other words, how are we gonna keep track? So if it's,
Sure.
If we're
So you go to the budget,
yep,
and within the sewer department,
Be either sewer or it would be or in a capital, depending on whatever you're
yeah,
doing.
well, so within, let me just first, Tom will go to the sewer, So within there,
What number, Susan? Sorry.
139. So we have payroll, overtime, board clerk, longevity, sick pay, medical, dental, life, long-term. Service contracts. Tom, would it be under service contracts? Typically it isn't, but here's the budget.
I guess I'll just tell you my finish line and then you work backwards. I'm trying to figure out if we're budgeting 5,000 a year, 10,000 a year, and then how will we?
Well,
know
within
if-
capital, there's 125,000 for capital projects.
Okay,
But within that, then you'd have to determine what you would need in terms of engineering, whatever that project might be, if you did need.
I just wanna make,
Capital
I just
budget.
wanna make sure we have some sort of system where if this board, you know, we're all not gonna be here, so will know where the money's coming from and what we're anticipating spending on that line item or that vendor per year. You know, like we always pick a number for, like.
It's in the budget.
Like,
Right.
like
I
our
agree.
wetland guy saw a number in there for him, so on. Like, is there a number we're gonna allocate towards this and checks and balances, how do we know where we're at? And obviously that number could be zero if there's no projects, and obviously the number could be much higher when there are projects, but I'm just curious how we're gonna keep track of it.
So currently, you know, there is no monies budgeted in the operation fund for an engineer. That can be an added line item, that could be as needed. The thought was more on a project-driven basis, and that's when you normally do it. You know, if you're gonna try to do a clarifier, you have to do that. So we always, in our capital, we usually have a component that's would be for plant improvements, system improvements, that nature, and that's where you would do the work, because the majority of that work would be there. With that being said, if we needed to do additional professional services in there, then either we could add a line item for engineering within the operations budget, or it would, there's some other areas that it could come from if it had to, but the majority of it would be, I would think, out of the capital component for the projects that we were anticipating that they would be doing.
Yeah, cause I think it could be a good thing in the future, especially with the energy audits.
Sure.
If we find out we're spending 10,000 and saving 12, obviously that's a great thing. So I just was curious how we were gonna be able to keep track of this progress report.
I mean, obviously, as the budget was submitted, we hadn't finalized anything yet, so we didn't have a number in there for that as we just, you know, got through the process now for the individual budget. But I mean, there hasn't been a line item for engineering in that budget forever, so generally that has always been done through the capital component. Because more or less you call an engineer on a capital type of project from the sewer side. Water is different because of the plans you have to have in place.
As much as we might not need another line item, I think they are nice because it triggers conversation on it, you know, where we know we're at, that kind of thing. But thank you.
So your pleasure on the topic. What would you like to do?
I'm good.
I'm good with
We already
it.
have a motion made and seconded.
Who made the motion?
Jim?
I did.
Who seconded it? Ralph, okay. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Tom, for getting that information for us.
Yes, thank you, Tyler.
Appreciate it.
I will say under, I think I'll do it under informal discussion. So, status reports is closed. We'll move on to public comment. Set. And general informal discussion. We have been talking with the Clean Energy Task Force, and Lou has been helping with that. And do you want to highlight a little bit of that, Lou, in terms of energy and so forth?
Yeah, we've, actually, it was Sue, myself, Andy Bauer, Carl, and Bob, and I think maybe Ashley stepped in for a while, to go over energy efficiency within the municipal buildings in town. And how can we do that? And Andy had said that there are some vendors that could come out on the area of solar, and they would be able to kind of give you an idea of what kind of solar installation could be done that could save energy, electricity for the schools, for the sewer, for town hall, for the library, whatever. In doing so, Bob and Carl were kind of hesitant with projects that would be new. So, for example, if, let's say you were to put canopies at the sewer plant, you know, where would you find the funding for that unless it was bonded? What he did say, though, is that at the park, where there is a building gonna be built, and it's within the bonding realm, that maybe that would be a good place to look at for solar panels on those buildings or building. And we could maybe get a installer to look to see how large an array would need to be put there. The nice part about the park is that there's no trees right now that would hinder sunlight. The orientation of the building would probably either be an east or a south section. I can't remember which way the buildings are.
It runs kind of east to west
Faced.
majority, so that we'd have a
So-
south-facing roof.
So, okay, so that's a good thing. But, you know, an installer can come up with all those figures and kind of say, with the splash pad, with the electricity for lighting, for refrigeration, for stoves, and maybe other lighting down the road, how much, and maybe for the pumps for irrigation, you know, there's a lot of electricity that goes into that building that we'll have to pay for, and that will be primarily done seasonal. So if, let's say you put in a solar array, you're gonna use it during the time that those things are being used, but you're still gonna get credits in the wintertime, in the fall, and the early spring, when they're not being operated. So I could say a 10 kilowatt system maybe is the best one, but it'd be best to have somebody look at it and say, you only need 5, you only need 6. And if that's the case, and that could operate all the things, all the electricity at the park, you know, that would be a good thing. So that was one of the things that we talked about.
So can I just address that?
Sure.
So, you know, Jim and I in the past, with regards to the park, since we've been on this park ride for so long,
Yeah.
we had these conversations, and we've had informal conversations with the committee as well. But ultimately, you know, and so we are certainly, I would certainly support any sort of a solar effort. And since I have solar power, I understand putting it at the park. The problem is, you know, is that ultimately we have to ensure that we deliver the elements that we've promised the community. And I know, unless something weird happens, we are going to be extremely tight on funding. So that's the only thing that would be a drawback, is the thought of trying to use any of that bond funding, because ultimately we can't miss on not delivering an item that we've told them and then try to put another item that has nothing to do with what was on the list. So that, I think, is really, you know, it's just not to say we wouldn't do it, it's just, it's not the right time for us to be able to make that the decision, I would think.
We may have to look at how we would fund it differently, and then look at it as a, you know, funding it against the future savings, that type of.
Yeah, I mean, if there's another source, I can't see how the bonds would be able to be
Yeah,
used.
I make a suggestion about that.
Not right now. Can we just finish the discussion and then we'll open it up?
And we would also have to have a couple of things that are good questions now, especially with the drawings, making sure that the roof that is gonna be fine, for that building, you know, to support the additional load of solar, and it should be, but, you know, just wanna dot that I. And we'd also wanna, you have to look at things like, that building is gonna be basically in back of home plate for field 1. So, you know, foul balls will have a tendency to go over that and could impact it. That shouldn't, based on all the ratings, damage the solar panel, but you certainly wanna look at it, that type of stuff. But it's interesting, solar out there to try to offset it is
Yeah.
interesting, because you're right, there's not gonna be any trees. It would be a matter of how we could actually bring it to fruition, and what the offsets would be in terms of savings. One question I have from the clean energy perspective, I know there were changes in how the metering was gonna be done. Is, for these large scale solar projects, are they still gonna have the same net metering arrangement, where basically up to 100% usage, you get credit for, at the retail rate? Or are they, I know some of the net metering they were talking about was gonna reduce it to the wholesale rate. I just wasn't sure if that was only for home installations, or if that was gonna be across the board.
And I can't answer that specifically. I know that usually for homeowners, it's a wholesale retail situation where you
It,
have to.
it has been, and it
you
changed.
receive-
There was
It
potential
changed, the
changes to
recent
that, and that's what I'm,
legislation.
and the reason I'm concerned about that is that that actually would increase, it would probably, you know, I don't know the exact ratio of the wholesale rate that you'd get to the retail, but it would probably, for example, triple the payback period. If you know, the wholesale rate is significantly
Yeah.
less than
It's
the
not
retail.
significantly less, it's less. It's like, you know, you're, the regulatory or the energy company is gonna charge you 15 cents a kilowatt, or actually about 8 or 9 cents a kilowatt, but they would pay you 7. So it's not a big difference, but it is less. It isn't a
Some of the
large
changes I
amount.
had seen, I thought it was more, but I think that's something we'd also wanna look at, is how the reimbursement, 'cause that would be part of the, basically the cost offset model. Right.
But I think it would, you know, overall, I think it would be a good thing to do, because the cost of the project is fairly large. There are some people that think that this is a big expenditure. How can we decrease some of that expenditure over time? And if we could say, these solar panels generate all the electricity that you need for all those services, I think that could be a good selling point for the park, you know, long range, because let's say you're using, you know, let's say you generate, I don't know, let's say 300 kilowatts a day, or I shouldn't say day, let's say about 50 kilowatts a day during the summer. But in the wintertime, you're not gonna use any kilowatts,
Mhm.
but you're gonna generate kilowatts that you're gonna get credit for. So I think that maybe, and I can't specifically say if it can be a wash, but it would be nice to have an installer come in and say, this is what we can do, and this is how it would work, and how much it would cost the town in electricity, in the bills of electricity, or not at all.
Well, I think I think everybody's right.
Yeah.
Number one, if the basketball court is scrapped and you get solar, there's gonna be a mutiny. So, Ralph's 100% right, but I do believe you have an excellent point, so let's figure out other ways. If it's gonna save the town money, it's a no-brainer. We'll figure out a way to fund it. If it pays for itself in 3 years, it's pretty easy to sell to the taxpayers, so I have no problem with looking into it, but there better be a basketball court before the solar panels, that's all I'm saying. If you can't get the basketball court, we'll talk. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing we have is.
Rick
Oh,
is
God,
next.
sorry.
Ralph, hold, Rick.
I was just wondering with the sort of land around the perimeter of the park, if you couldn't get these panels on the roof, could you put sort of like a solar field out there, or put them on the bank or something on the perimeter where there's no ball game or, you know, no specific activity going on? And then the second part of that question is that, I don't know enough about this, but is there, if you generate more than you're gonna use, because maybe you have more room, if you don't just confine it to the buildings, do you get, you know, more credit, or can the power be used to, electricity be used somewhere else in town, or?
It gets sold back
Yeah,
to the
it
power
gets sold
company.
back to-
Yeah, it gets
On a
credit.
residential, right, that's interesting, on a residential bill, right, it would basically come back in the form of a check once a year, and the surplus would be basically given in a check, and it would be for the wholesale rate at that point, that's above usage. I don't know, that's an interesting question with this, could it be used, if we're looking at this almost as the shared solar, could it be used to offset other costs somewhere else? In other words, if you have, and I know that, for example, driving through some other parts of Connecticut, I saw some large fields that just had nothing but solar arrays on them. And
Well, that's
so
what
it's-
I'm getting at.
and-
You see them a lot in
Right.
Massachusetts.
So if you have a big enough array, can you try to offset some other costs
Yeah.
as well? That's an interesting question. There are people out doing that in places.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of footprint on that property where you could look at that. What I was gonna say is that the tough part we have right now is perhaps next week we have drawings that have to go to the town, and we're really on a tight schedule, so I think I saw an email go by where it was talking about, is there some sort of, is there a solar vendor out there? We'd have to have someone come in and look at those prints to determine whether they think structurally that those buildings are gonna be ready, and we're talking about very soon. We can't delay, so I don't know what we do from that standpoint, trying to get someone to look at
Yeah.
the
Well, I think
structure.
the installer would have to look at the plans. Obviously, we don't have electric bill yet. You don't know what the expenditure that's going to be. But I think if they looked at the plans and they looked at what's gonna be installed, generically, they're gonna say a splash pad of that nature is gonna use X amount of kilowatts per day. Electricity for that square footage of a building, they'll probably come up with an estimate for that. And then they'll come up with an estimate for refrigeration, stove, figuring that those things will be used seasonal. I'm guessing that an installer will come in and say, all right, with all of that information, I can come up with an idea of what the array should, how large it should be. The important part is to make sure the roof is sturdy enough to hold it, because I know that we wanted to put some solar panels at the town garage, and Bob said that building is not safe enough to hold the panels. So we didn't put them there, or didn't go there with that part. So I think I'll talk to Andy and see if he can get in touch with you guys, and if he has an installer that we've worked with this Ross Solar before, and there's a company that worked in town, and they were one of the solarized companies. He can have those people come out within a day or two or a week to probably give you some ideas, maybe look at the plans, and then get back to us to see what it could work, how it could work.
Yeah, I mean, I know personally, I fully support solar. I mean, it's been, I know that how it functions on my house, as an offset, it's fantastic. So it's just a matter of making sure we accomplish it and accomplish everything else that we've committed to in terms of giving a full featured park.
Yeah, believe me, it's not in any way, shape, or form I'm saying I don't want, that would be awesome, it's
Yeah,
just the
because
time.
if it saves money, it
does.
will be a good thing. I agree with that.
Twice in one meeting.
Saves money, saves the car.
Did someone say it was behind home plate?
The building, if you look at it, you basically have baseball. I think it's field 1 is inside, and it basically faces you have home plate, and you have what would be the right field baseline, and then parallel.
If you were like looking up to try to see? Or
No, the eating area, it's a covered eating area, so that, because there's gonna be basically a pavilion, that's built underneath it. So if you're eating and you're focused on that, you're gonna be okay. Where they serve the food is underneath that covered area, and there is gonna be safety netting that goes around it, so.
No, I mean, that time we put solar panels on it, right? We would fly above.
Oh, no, that's all to the north of it. The baseball field's to the north of it, so the south-facing sun would never be impacted by any of that structure. I think that was what you were getting at, but yeah.
Don, did you have a comment?
Yes, the modern technology with solar panels, if you're constructing a new building, instead of using a conventional roof, the entire roof becomes a solar panel. There are manufacturers and contractors that are installing a complete roof, so you're not paying for a roof and a solar panel. And you're just paying for the roof and the solar panel, all one thing. And so it's one cost.
You talking about the solar shingles, Don?
Pardon?
Like the solar shingles? Type
No,
of-
there are actually panels.
They're still a
Yeah, so
panel,
they
but it
can be
functions as a
replaced.
roof?
They're weatherproof, of course, and they're still panels that you can replace them. Right? However, they also are the roof. You don't have a roof underneath the panels. So what it does is save you the cost of putting a roof on and then buying panels to put on the top of the roof. And that's being done right now. So I don't know if that was ever looked at when they did the design for your building.
No, because that wasn't something that we had, talked about directly.
Yeah, well, that is available, and it's not advertised, I guess, that much yet, so it's probably was overlooked. But it is a possibility you should look at, really.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other, go ahead, Norm.
What pops in my mind, talking about these solar panels and maybe putting them on the bank or a field, what are you gonna do about a residential neighborhood? Maybe they don't wanna look at solar panels. you're gonna change the whole status of that area. I think before we purchase anything like that, we should run it by the neighborhood and make sure that they're doing the right thing.
You referring to the ones on the roof or on the ground mount, or both?
Especially ones on the ground, but even the roof, I mean, it changes the whole looks.
Does.
Oh,
I go by Jim's house every day and I say, ooh, I wouldn't want that on my roof.
Are you saying my roof's ugly? Is that what you-
In my opinion, I would not want it on my roof. But it doesn't mean that it's, financially, it's not the right thing to do, of course it is, but aesthetics and out with a ball field and recreation, passive recreation, who wants to look at, maybe we don't want to look at solar field.
So I will tell you that my solar panels are black, and so most of the time the roof is black, and when it's a cloudy day, the roof is white. So it's a constant, it's a look, it's a reflective look. It's either black or it's the clouds. That's what we have.
I'm old-fashioned, which,
Okay.
The only,
Well, this is not something on our agenda, so I'm not going to go too much further into the informal discussion, but I do appreciate the comments, and they're very helpful to us.
how about something else on informal?
So, yes, okay. And was that Ben?
How about something else on
Sure,
informal?
Ben, go ahead.
Chris Cody got approval on for an addition at, I think, the last planning and zoning, so we'll be adding on to the addition, and it'll have
Congratulations.
indoor, golf.
3,000
Three
square
more.
feet, is it?
Yeah,
Three more
Great.
things.
It's gonna have indoor what?
indoor golfing with simulators. He's gonna have 4 simulators, 3 open to the public and 1 for private lessons.
Wonderful.
So,
That
should be
brings some
ready,
people
should
to
be ready
town.
by winter.
Nice.
That's fantastic.
Health and wellness.
Yeah, when a training, you have something to do.
I did hear from Dan Bertram from VRT, Informal Discussion, and he is going to be presenting on May 29th at a chamber event. It's, I haven't even gotten back to the chamber yet, but I did, they did ask that there be someone from the project to speak. He's going to speak on retail and commercial development in the area, and there will be also folks from East Hampton, from Edgewater, those developers, and a developer from Glastonbury as well. And it's part of the, I think it's, maybe Rick is familiar with this acronym, REEFA, Real Estate,
REEF.
and it's
REFA.
REFA. You familiar with that?
Well, I don't know exactly what it stands for, if that's
Okay.
what you.
No, that's okay. And also, Ion Bank is sponsoring this, and it will be
Okay.
on the 29th, if any of the selectmen and others would like to attend.
What
It's
time?
part of the monthly,
Oh.
chamber meeting, and that would be at the Red Lion Hotel in Cromwell. And the guest speaker, which would, the meeting starts at 7 a.m. At 8 a.m., Congressman John Larson will be speaking.
Okay.
And then after his presentation with questions at 9 o'clock, Ion Bank is sponsoring this special program. So if you want more information, I certainly will, I think I forwarded it to some selectmen, they had asked for it. Let me just, if you bear with me 1 minute, I'll find it on my email.
If I wasn't one of the selectmen, you could send it to me.
I will.
Thank you.
But let me just tell you a little bit then. Let's see.
I'll be in the middle of an implementation.
Scroll down. The member breakfast is Wednesday, May 29, 2019. And the presentation will be by U.S. Congressman John Larson, featuring a presentation also of the Governor William O'Neill Public Service Award, which will go to former State Senator Paul Doyle, who is from Weathersfield. And we also will have the Middlesex County and Beyond, Commercial Real Estate's Influence in Economic Development, a local and regional commercial real estate forum. The Hartford chapter of the Real Estate Finance Association, which is REFA, is pleased to bring together some of the top commercial real estate professionals in Connecticut for an open forum event. They'll focus on commercial real estate, investment, apartments, retail, office, and industrial sectors, local CRE, which is commercial real estate projects, developments, one of which will be Portland, and BRT, and as well as current market conditions and expectations for the future. So that's a separate workshop following the general plenary presentation. So I think it's well worth your time to attend, and it should be very informative for all of us.
So when's Bertram's part at the 9 o'clock portion after the main breakfast?
Correct, at the real estate, finance,
Yeah.
and the whole day, including Congressman Larson, is, the sponsor is Ion Bank, if I'm
Okay.
understanding it correctly. They usually have a sponsor for their breakfast, Rick.
Right, yep.
So, Ion Bank called me today and asked if I would, be in touch, and, Dan said that he wanted to very much, attend, so, and be a presenter. So I'll forward this to, the rest of the selectmen as well. If you wish to attend, selectmen, let me know, and Michelle and I will help and get that done for you, okay? And that's all that I had tonight. Any other informal discussion? Lou?
Monday, this coming Monday, the Route 66 corridor study meeting will be held at the East
Thank you.
Hampton Middle School. And I will be there, I think Susan will be there, John Hall will be there, Kathy Heron possibly from Queen Streets. So several people from Portland will be there representing us at that meeting. They're gonna give us an overview of the process that they went through last year, update us to where they are today with things they're gonna do with Route 66, ask our input on other ideas, and there'll be another meeting, I think it's in the fall, to go over continual looking at the input of the public and residents that live along Route 66.
Lou, what time is that?
6 o'clock, Lou?
It starts at 6.
It's technically not a public meeting.
Yeah.
It's a committee, and Ben is on the committee. Did you
Yeah.
get the information, Ben? I put
Yeah.
you on.
I didn't have to email back, right?
No,
Lou, is this
no, just
this
call.
is January,
I asked
May
Chris
14th?
Cody,
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Okay.
and
I got that.
also,
In the
Peter
email.
Callen from St. Clements, as well as Lou. And I know Mary Dickerson will attend as our staff, and I'm
There's a
trying to
couple
think, there's a
others.
couple of others
Oh,
as,
Carl Guile?
Yeah, Carl's gonna be there.
that's from East Hampton.
Oh.
He's
sorry.
the East Hampton representative, and then Bruce Tyler from Planning and Zoning, and John Hall from Complete Streets.
So
So-
you said you received.
I got,
That's a public information meeting, and that would be for everyone.
Oh, that's
And
not-
that's
that's not the
Tuesday.
same.
no, oh, this is different from
That's
what
a
he
different
just.
one, yeah. 'Cause
Okay.
What's Monday? Monday is the.
This coming Monday, you're talking?
6th.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know
Nicole's
what's
Sunday.
This coming Monday is the 6th.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's.
And that's for an intense review by Portland and East Hampton. It's an you're part of an advisory committee. Then, they're gonna have a public information meeting on Tuesday, May 14, which I have flyers on. The Tuesday, May 14 meeting is at Portland Senior Center, and the agenda is study overview, the summary of the existing conditions, the summary of future conditions, next steps, and then public comments and open mic. So you could even sing if you wanted to.
What time is that?
Yes,
Route 66, we could say.
Yeah, Route
So
66.
when is the Monday meeting is where? May 6th?
East Hampton Middle School.
Now,
That's at the.
Portland, East Hampton Middle School.
Susan, the only name that comes to mind,
Yes.
I don't know who's doing the invite, and I don't know if it's East Hampton or Portland, but obviously, he comes to mind because he owns a bunch of frontage on 66 that's going to be developed in both East Hampton and Portland. I just figured Wayne Rand.
Yeah, I don't know if he's on the East Hampton
It's a
one.
public, it's a public
I
one.
don't,
It's a
but
Tuesday, this is one of the.
I had recommended a few other people too, and they only selected the
May
ones that.
6th.
I wasn't trying to, just, he comes to mind with a lot of projects in the future, and it'd be nice to see where some of
Well,
those
he
are
may,
headed.
he might have been nominated by East Hampton, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Good suggestion.
Two more things.
Yes,
Quick things.
sure.
We talked about the solar array on Valley View, and I was just wondering if we, for our Sustainable Connecticut documentation, did we hear any more from Carl on how many kilowatt or megawatt hours that generates?
I don't have that information. He did go on a tour with Andy Bauer. They're certain that it's producing power. Not certain that I have the numbers yet. Our sustainability, while you asked, our
Okay.
sustainability application either went this afternoon or it's going first thing in the morning for a preview. So we have an excess of the number of points for a bronze certification. So lots of help from Ashley Majorowski, Mary Dickerson, our IT specialist Kevin Armstrong, as well as our Frank Kehoe has helped with that, myself, and a number of other people. So we're confident that we have a good application, but they'll tell us what we need to do and what holes we have, and that'll come back to us. This is a designation as a sustainable Connecticut town, and you have to do many actions, 9 categories, but it's sponsored by CCM as well as Eastern Connecticut State University.
That's what.
And this is the whole list of things you're supposed to do. There's quite a bit to it. Thank you for bringing that.
Okay, and the last thing is tomorrow at Portland, how's this flip? Portland High School is gonna have a blood drive, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. So if you wanna lose a pound, go to the high school at 8 o'clock
And do good work.
and do good work. It's sponsored by one of the youth groups at the high school.
There's also a bluegrass festival. If there's no rain, it'll be at the riverfront. If there's rain, it'll be at Portland High School on Saturday. You know the time of that?
Starts at noon time. I
Starts
think
at
it's
noon time.
noon till probably 7-ish. Supposed to be several good bands, should be a good event.
It's sponsored by one of our high school students as part of her
Her capstone.
senior project, her capstone project. I will also say for the minutes, Laura, congratulations to several students who signed letters of intent for athletics at colleges, as well as congratulations so far to our baseball team. I
Yeah.
think they're 11-1, and they're
kick it.
proceeding on a nice trajectory. Doing a great job. And high school graduation will be June 14th. We're looking forward to congratulating all of our students very soon.
And then project graduation's that Monday.
Thank you. Project
So-
graduation is
Monday, June 17th.
Yes.
Anyone wants to chaperone, let me know.
around Mike Pelton, I
It's a
think.
fun
so-
trip. I'm there.
Any other announcements?
Didn't you do it last year?
From
I did.
folks
It's
tonight?
fun. Yeah, it's fun. Dave Brothers Historical.
Nothing on follow-up at this point, and,
Oh, quick question. We talked about the last meeting about a public session,
June.
June 4th.
I haven't noticed it yet because it's a little bit,
I wasn't sure if you, because you were looking for a place. I know that was the only.
I haven't done that yet,
Okay.
but I will. Thanks for the reminder.
Graduation's on a Friday.
We did send a referral to TZC for the Main Street Sidewalk project, and that's on the follow-up. And motion to adjourn?
Go move.
Seconded.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
If anyone needs a car cleaned on Sunday, you know, fundraiser car wash.
Oh,
it to
yeah,
Rick.
I was
Thank
writing
you.
some stuff in.
I was gonna show it to Rick.
Don, would you like to take some of these
Yes, sir.
materials?
Yes, sir.